Alright, this is Goof Shoes here, trying something new. Lily did my game, when I start recording with OBS, my game freezes for 20 seconds, so that's just gonna happen right now. Lily, aka Californications, did a video review of Metro Revamp, and I thought that was a great idea. Her review was really solid all around, and I thought she made great points, and also the use of a video format made both the intent of the review come across better, and also made it feel more natural and more human. It let her navigate the map and show things as she walked. I felt that was a great way to handle the review. So I figured as an experiment I'll try it out too. This is Refinery, made by Kickedbyconsole. I assume some other people might stumble upon this video, so I figure I might as well just mention that. Overall, just to start, I guess, with a preface, I think this is a pretty solid map. It feels like a combination of Zavad/Ravad. It's just Zavad from Battlefield 4, so, I mean, fuck it, whatever. And Highway. And a little bit of Crane Sight, too. Now, the maps this design-wise is pulling inspiration from are not very good. Crane Sight is very flawed. This is understood by many other reviewers, that the flow of the map is janky and unnatural and uncomfortable. It's very heavily biased against crane side spawn. They have a horrible disadvantage. The crane itself is detracts from the rest of the map as this sort of anti-focal point where the rest of the map is supposed to take place. And then you have the crane pulling players away. Now, Shay and Lily, and I've even spoken about this before as well, have established that players naturally want to go up. That's just how flow works. Maul proves this, Ravad proves this. Now, Ravad is even more important because the rooftops on Ravad are the most important spots in the map. Far and away, extremely important. They hold power positions over everywhere else except tunnels, and even then, you can still manage the tunnels from the rooftops slightly. Highway lot has a lack of invisible walls around the edges, which means that the way the map is supposed to play can often, I'd say maybe like 1 in 3 games, totally not fucking happen. Instead, what you get is players sitting around the edges, ignoring the interiors, the actual map in this area, and just staying outside and sniping. Which, I mean, fuck it, it's fun for them, and I'm not trying to shit on the way that people have fun. The problem is, 1, it's bad for everyone else's gameplay, and 2, it's unintended. It's not how the map is supposed to play. So it's a negative quality. That's not how that should happen. So, with those things established, let's get to my critique of this map. The rooftops, let's start with what I like. Let's be positive about this first, because I don't want to just sit and shit on this map and breed hate. And be like, oh, but I do like this. So I'm going to say this with the understanding that generally, pretty solid map. Its visuals are great. Those are particularly get some credit. It does a good job of adding some color here and there. I think the use of the same gray tone on most maps both is tonally consistent with the rest of the game and also ugly as fuck. I hate this gray. I fucking hate this gray ass fucking color. It's awful. Especially because players' heads blend into it. So it's bad for gameplay in that aspect too. That being said, that's a minor gripe, really. One thing is to mention is a lot of the doorways on the map are fucked. I think some of the other reviewers mentioned it, but this doorway is fine. But the ones in that building over there, totally fucked. Both of them have really goofy collision. So visuals are really solid. Excellent job making the tower from Firestorm, recreating it in Phantom Forces. That's really impressive. I do have issues with that tower, but I'll get to them later. The biggest comparison this has to Zavad is the rooftops. Now here's the problem with them, is that Ghost's spawn doesn't have easy access to them. Phantom's does. Phantom's has a ladder on their side, and Ghost does not. It's right in the open in front of the hill. That's awful. That can't stay for the health of the map. Now the real thing is that the rooftop access also can't stay. The rooftop access is a huge problem with Zavad. It completely centralizes the map in a way that it feels like it shouldn't be. Now, you could fix Zavad with some tweaks to its rooftops, or you could remove them completely, but this isn't about Zavad. Excuse me. So, there's multiple, not just two, problems with the rooftops. The first is that they overlook everything. They cover the entire map, just like Zavad. Not okay. You have an immense power position in these two rooftops. That's going to completely break any flow this map might have, because it's going to be entirely focused around these two rooftops now. So that's reason one why their access should be removed. Reason two, they overlook the spawns perfectly. I could sit on this rooftop here and watch Phantom spawn and shit all over them. Especially because I have unlimited area where I can peek. There's no walls along here, which means that I can peek from anywhere up here. They don't have a way to predict where I'm going to show up, which is also bad. That means I have a colossal advantage from this roof. And the same goes for the Ghost side. Especially because an attacker has this ladder to access it. So Ghosts are even more disadvantaged on this map. It's a huge problem. Which leads me to the issues with the spawns. Is that, and there's more problems with the rooftops, but honestly those first two are more than enough to justify their removal or a very thorough redesign of how they're handled. The spawns are also very poorly handled. And that they're spread out a little bit, but barely. They might as well just all be in the same spot for both teams. And they also have no cover in front of them. These trees don't count as cover, and this pipe barely does for Phantoms, and doesn't for Ghosts at all. So the spawns need to be reevaluated. There needs to be actual substantial horizontal sightline breaking cover in front of them, so it's not like walking across a death field like Suburbia across this road or through this open space here. This is assuming that the rooftop problem has been fixed somehow, so that it doesn't just fuck all over these spawns. Next point is that this area, the spawns are both far away from it. So you have this B point here, where combat is going to be players moving from this very open space here, right in front of each other, to try to access it. And then, the team that holds this area has a huge defensive advantage, with all these oil tankers to defend from, as well as up here, and up on this platform. If I recall, that platform is accessible, but I can't remember. Even still, these then mean that Ghosts have an advantage over B point. This point is extremely difficult to capture once a team has taken it. There isn't sufficient cover, and there's tons of room for the holding team to maneuver and shoot at the point. So this needs work as well. I said I'd talk about what I liked with the map, and then I totally just shut on it. I apologize. Those were just pressing in my head, and I wanted to get them out. They're all big issues that will really affect how the map plays. So the spawns need to be spread out much more along this whole area, so that a spawn-trapped team can get some flanking spawns. This goes for both sides, and they also need more cover, so spawn traps are more difficult. That goes for both this road section, for Phantoms, and the area directly in front of and in their spawns. Ghosts need cover along this road, desperately. This open sightline right here, you can literally shoot right through the walls at the team spawning. You can just plink through them. More so for ghosts than phantoms, but still. I like the Firestorm Tower as a feature. I think it's cool that it's accessible, but like the crane, it's going to detract from gameplay a lot. Now, the differences between the crane is it doesn't have a little safe alcove, like concrete counterbalance shit that the crane normally does. Like right here, it's not up here. So that's good. But the problem is that these things are generally just described as a noob trap. The use of noob feels childish and diminutive, but it's beside the point. In that newer players are attracted to these areas far more than anywhere else on the map. And because these newer players fucking suck, typically, they're completely useless up here. They're dead weight. Whereas if they were at least moving towards a point, they serve as some kind of death fodder in the way or can sit on the point and prevent its capture. Whereas if they're up here, they're just an annoyance. You get a suppression tick when they shoot a sniper at you and miss. And you're like, oh, well, that was annoying, and then you keep playing. And sometimes you'll go and shoot up there just to stop being annoyed, or if you can't find anyone else. There's two ways to deal with this. Either remove access to the Firestorm Tower, which I think would be a shame, because it's a distinct part of the map and it's cool. But it's something to consider. Or to move all the ladders for it up on the front of it. Just to completely solidify that this area is fucking useless. You can't use it. It's a death trap to try to climb it, because when you get up there, you don't matter anymore. It's really important to make sure that every piece of your map is relevant in some meaningful way. And if you're going to have a feature that's interesting but can't gameplay-wise be relevant, then you need to do your absolute fucking best to make sure that it's a death trap immediately. So when a player tries to climb it 3 times and gets sniped off every time, they know that they're not supposed to go up there, basically. It's just for show. I'm trying to think of any other points I had. I like the 2 points in the warehouses or factories, and the design of the factories themselves looks really nice. I like this sightline on the hill. I think is pretty well done, since you can sit here and be safe from it. And same with this area where you have cover, although this is much more open. Now it has Phantoms, again, has the advantage over Ghosts here. Ghosts have one very predictable sightline. Phantoms have a huge open thing where they can peek from plenty of cover within it. So that needs to be fixed somehow, either by using the same kind of door over here, which is pretty much just how you should do that. One thing I also noticed is that players can get in here if there's no invisible walls, and especially if they fall down from here, but even a dumb player can just... you don't have to super jump to get out of it. You can do the normal prone double jump shit. You don't have to super or mega jump. So this is fine. If anything, it's a nice little spot to go regenerate your health, what I think is cute. I mentioned before, this whole area has no cover at all. These trees are meaningless, and these rocks are meaningless. This you can prone behind, but then you're vulnerable from so many fucking places that it really doesn't matter. This right here is the only meaningful cover in this field. So this needs fixing. This area absolutely needs cover. Which further just emphasizes how defense-biased this point is, which is very bad for gameplay. You want a point to be easy to capture, hard to defend, not the opposite. When a point is hard to defend but easy to capture, it means that gameplay is very active. People are constantly moving around, they capture one point, move to the next one because they know they can't hold it. You even subconsciously, a less aware player will just notice in the back of their head, oh shit, I don't have anywhere to be. I'm just standing in the open. So they get the fuck out of the way, they move. Let me think of anything else. I think I've covered everything I had in mind. Yeah, the doors. The thing I would like about roof access here is how this could be broken while people are standing on it. That's always a fun thing, like in Dome on Highway. But it's another disadvantage for Ghosts. Ghosts has they're horribly disadvantaged on this map. It's not original Zavad versus Phantoms level bias, but it's pretty bad. So that really, really needs to be addressed. That's a huge issue. And part of that is removing rooftop access. That would fix it immensely. That would be such a large benefit. Another thing, this pipe here, this pipe is how you do what the rooftops want to be. In that they're a power position, it's elevated, it's attractive for players to get to. I also like that you can use the crates here to get onto it. That's nice. But it's very risky because there's no cover along it at all. If you're on it, you're vulnerable. But you also have great sightlines over everything, but not such at the roofs where it's over literally everything. You have this area to look over, and once there's cover through these areas that there should be, it'll be a great trade-off. I would really like these pipes, even though it means that players right within the start of the game can walk up the pipe and get an engagement right along here, which is problematic. But it's not a huge issue. Actually, that's a bit of a problem. I would reconsider how that pipe is accessible. Like I said, I like these. I like the insides of the warehouses a lot. I think those are well handled. I think this area, this crate section, is nice. I like that a player that's good with their movement can get on top of them and move around and sort of have a same situation as the pipes, where it's a power position but also vulnerable. I think that's great. So, to summarize my thoughts on this map, because I can't think of anything else I have to say, and it's probably not worth remembering if I can't remember it. Spawns need a lot of work. The spawn trap bias on the map is horrible. It's original Zavad level bad. You can stand on a rooftop and stare right at the enemy spawns. They need to be spread out more, and they need to have way more cover in front of them and inside them to break horizontal sightlines so you can be safe moving through them. The rooftops need to have their access removed. It's terrible for this map. Particularly bad for this map, because they're so powerful, and they're biased against ghosts. Even if you moved this ladder to this side, it would still be bad. Even if you put ladders on both sides so that attacking players can get up, it would still be bad. There is no way to make these rooftops acceptable for the gameplay. They will always be a bad part. They need to be inaccessible. This whole point, this entire area is extremely hard to attack and very easy to defend. Which, when you have a main point there, that's a very big problem. There's this whole thing here for players to snipe from every single one of these, and the area inside them is really cool. I like the combat within them, but being able to access all of them isn't great. You should only be able to access like one or two, if at all, so that players can predict where an enemy is going to be and it's not another rooftop scenario. As well as giving this point here specifically a lot more cover, so it's way safer to attack. This clearing here needs more cover, so you can move through it more safely without getting sniped from this section, from anywhere in here, which would absolutely happen. This point's basically impossible to take once the enemies have taken it. Pipe needs reevaluation so that you can't immediately get on top of it from spawn. I think you could move the entrances to it, the ramps into here, into the into the actual like interior of the complex. Now, how that would happen for ghosts, I'm not sure, but this isn't a great idea right now. And also adding invisible walls. around the edges of the intended playable area so that the map doesn't turn into highway and the entire actual meat of the map that matters is completely ignored. That's definitely a big thing. I think the work within the warehouses is great. This point defense bias, not so much. Phantoms has a huge advantage on defending this point because they have this whole area to peek from instead of Ghost's single door. Visuals are really solid. Even little details like this. The black and white checkers is really nice. That's a clever little detail, and I appreciate the thought that goes into shit like that. I think the gray color should be reevaluated. Something maybe more brown-toned, something like warmer, so that it doesn't blend into characters, and so the map feels a little bit easier on the eyes instead of single tone. Access and how this is accessed for the fantastic Firestorm Tower needs to be reconsidered because it's going to detract from the gameplay, unfortunately. The door collision, that door specifically, and then the other one into the offices needs to be fixed. It seems like it's a union issue, but I'm not certain. I had the same issue once before with unions, so I figure it might be that, but I'm not 100% positive. Yeah, it's not good. That being said, I like this office area. I think it's a good change of pace from the tightness, especially because you can get through these windows. I would actually open these up a little bit, make them taller, so players can get through them more easily. So this isn't such a tight area. I would actually consider popping a hole. Oh, fucking hell. Yeah, please. This needs to be fixed. Let me get out of here. I would widen up the doorway and fix whatever union error there might be going on in there. I would also break open a hole in this wall somehow, but not so it aims through into the doorway on the other side, so that you aren't funneled through this doorway exiting or entering. I would consider some kind of one-way entrance for ghosts into the factory from this side, so that they can get into the map without having to, once the spawns are spread out, without having to walk through this area or go through here. They have a way into their own defensive point, which I think Phantoms actually does have on their side. I think that covers everything. Like I said, I'm being very critical on this map. It's partially because it's my job. I'm looking for flaws, especially in layout. But I think if those issues are all fixed, which there's a lot of them, but they're all pretty important issues, especially the spawns and the rooftops and the Phantoms bias and this whole section. If this didn't get its cover added, but this area wasn't so powerful looking over it, it wouldn't be as big of a deal. So if I had to place targets on specific things to fix, it's those. Otherwise, considering that if those things were fixed, this map would be really solid. I'd really like to play it. And honestly, it's you're doing pretty good, considering that I've had to tell a couple different people to do a full redesign of their maps. So you didn't need that. This doesn't need a complete redesign. You're already about halfway there. So good job. I remember seeing some of the earlier work of this map, and it's come a long way since then. And I look forward to the next opportunity to review it, or whoever else gets to review it. This has been Goof Shoes. I want to give credit to Lily for coming up with doing video reviews, because I think it was a great idea. This has been Refinery by Kickedbyconsole. Thank you, Kickedbyconsole, hopefully for watching, and thank you to anyone else who took the time to sit through 25 minutes of map critiques. Peace.